and welcome to a new edition of Planet Waves TV. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, here with my first ever video presentation on the September 11th chart. I have taught this chart at various times and places and written numerous articles about it. I, like all astrologers who were alive and thinking and breathing on September 11th, 2001, ran to my computer, did not walk, and cast the astrology when I heard that an airplane had hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. I guess I cast the chart a little later in the day, but it was soon. And I have that chart for you, and I want to go over the basic details because I'm going to do this chart Friday on the 11th on Planet Waves FM in a program focused on healing through truth. I will be providing some psychological information, some engineering information, and then I will be doing a thorough reading of this chart as well, though astrology is a visual thing usually, and it helps to have it. Just as a point of background, the events of 9/11 happened during the opposition of Saturn and Pluto. We are now at the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto, and we're experiencing very similar things going on. We have experienced what I believe is a false flag attack pursuant to several different definitions of false flag. War was declared, this time war on a virus instead of war on some nebulous terrorists. And the whole official story is highly questionable. But on September 11th, that was not so obvious to almost everyone. My first instinct when I heard about it was that there were very few entities capable of doing this, and none of them were Al-Qaeda. So the presence of Saturn and Pluto in a what is sometimes called a hard aspect, 90-degree based aspect, brings not only events like this, but also the more important thing is not the event, but the response of society, the response of the government, the way that the situation is handled. And the way that 9/11 and COVID-19 have been handled were extraordinarily similar. Both involved crackdowns on society. Both involved give-backs, take-backs from the people, even though the people had nothing to do with it. Neither you nor I in any way caused this, was alleged to have caused this, or anything. It wasn't any kind of public neglect of an issue. In both cases, at best, it was the failure of the government to do its job, and then the people pay the price. Note that, and note that carefully, please. Whatever your political affiliation may be, politics does not excuse this in any way. And the aftermath of 9/11, which we did not know exactly on 9/11, included two wars, both of which still have a military presence now, and which have caused incalculable pain and suffering. Today in the New York Times, I read an article by a woman, soldier, an officer, who lost a leg to an improvised explosive device. Well, she had a severe injury to her leg, and she lived with the pain for 14 years, and then she opted to have her leg amputated. This was completely unnecessary for any of this to have happened, but I tip my hand. Let's take a look at this chart. Okay, so this is the figure. I will include a scan of this on the planetwaves.fm broadcast, actually a better place to find it is planetwaves.net. This will go up Friday night, probably around 10 or 11 Eastern Time, planetwaves.net, and then select the Planet Waves FM tab, and you'll see not only the broadcast, but also the resources. I always include resources with each show for further reading or to prove anything I might claim or whatnot. So, but my purpose today is to show you the basic structure of this chart. And so I've already mentioned the opposition of Saturn and Pluto. Sorry if you're watching on a phone and it's really, really little. There's Saturn right there at 14 degrees of Gemini, and there's Pluto at 12 degrees of Sag. That opposition was exact on August 5th, and that was the day that the CIA was writing the presidential daily briefing for President Bush, which was given to him on August 6th. So the date of the exact opposition was a very important date in the sequence of events, which no one knew till later. The August 6 PDB, which was written on August 5th, the day of the Saturn-Pluto opposition, was finally published a couple of years later. To my knowledge, it is the only presidential daily briefing that has actually ever been published. So in the background is the Saturn-Pluto opposition. Okay, hold that thought. One thing that everyone saw immediately is that Mercury is rising. There's the rising degree, and there's Mercury. The rising degree is 1422, and Mercury is at 1417. Mercury is occupying the degree of the ascendant. Mercury, the winged god, is exactly rising at the moment that Flight 11 hits the World Trade Center. Absolutely extraordinary. A degree of the zodiac rises for only 4 minutes a day. 4 minutes a day. And within those 4 minutes that Mercury was rising, right there, Mercury rising right there in Libra, that's when Flight 11 hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Okay, so now let's stick to the main gist of this chart. Notice this trine between Mercury and Saturn. Mercury is at 1417, and Saturn is exactly 119 and degrees and 30 arc minutes away. That is a very close trine. It is a partile trine. Mercury 14, Saturn 14. That's very interesting, because whatever is trine the leading actor, right? The thing that rules the ascendant is the protagonist. It is the leading actor. Is working in cooperation with something that it is trine, particularly an exact trine. And it gets better than that. And by the way, Saturn always represents some form of authority. Saturn represents the power structure. Saturn represents the official government. Saturn represents the structure of society. And in this case, the structure of society was clearly under attack, but it looks as if the structure of society was somehow, some way in cooperation with the actor, whoever did this. And whoever did this is quite secret, because Mercury rules the 12th house in this chart, and the 12th house is the house of secret enemies. So we might ask, who is the secret enemy? Just open the curtains in my super duper Hollywood advanced lighting system here. Much better. All right. I love the way the video light looks at this time of night. I'm recording at 7:02 in Kingston, moments after we published the new Planet Waves. Okay, so now the fancy part. Libra is ruled by Venus, but as its exalted planet, Libra has Saturn. So Libra really has two rulers. Venus, the official ruler, and you might say Saturn, the honorary ruler. To understand Libra, you have to understand Saturn. To understand Saturn, you have to understand a little something about Libra. They are not normally associated in modern astrology. This is from ancient astrology, and any well-trained astrologer knows this, but Libra and Saturn have an important relationship. And Gemini, we all know, is ruled by Mercury. So there's a lot in here. The ninth house, where Saturn is the house of all things foreign. So the ruler of the ninth is also the ruler of the 12th, and both show up in the form of Mercury rising. However, Saturn is occupying the sign that Mercury rules, and Mercury is occupying the sign where Saturn is exalted. So so let's just pretend that ruling and exalting are the same thing, because for our purposes they are the same thing. And when planets are in one another's signs, they can switch places. That's called mutual reception. The old rule of mutual reception is mutual reception by degree. They can, under the older set of rules, astrology is like baseball. If you ever want to have an interesting read, try to figure out when the rules of modern baseball were applied. It happens to be one of my fetishes. So, and it's no wonder that I like astrology, because it's so similar to baseball, and it goes around, and there's a lot of rules. So this rule, mutual reception by degree, used to hold that the planets in mutual reception, switching places, had to be in a close aspect. That was later suspended. But not only are these planets in mutual reception, not only are they occupying one another's signs, they're also in a remarkably exact aspect. I mean, this chart is ridiculous, if nothing else, but for the precision of the aspects, everything going on here at 14, 14, 14, and in one another's signs. It's absolutely crazy. Well, what does this mean? Well, what does it mean when you have one planet that represents the terrorists and one planet that represents the government, and not only are they completely cooperating with one another as indicated by the trine, but they're in mutual reception? They switch places. It's mind-boggling. It's especially mind-boggling if you're aware of the August 6 PDB. Google it, August 6 PDB. It'll come right up. It says that more than a month before 9/11 happened, the CIA wrote this, okay? And part of me has great respect for those people. They have a hard job. I think almost all of them want to do their job well, and they briefed the president 5 weeks before 9/11 that bin Laden was determined to attack in the United States. De minimis, Bush knew personally. De minimis, Cheney, Rumsfeld, they all knew. They were all in on this briefing. They were not in the room with Bush, but they all got the briefing. Okay, so the federal government knew. There have been numerous reports of this. If you even type in the phrase, the board was blinking red that summer, that's the way that it was described. Blinking red. I think it was Condoleezza Rice or somebody who said this. Everyone was on notice. Everyone was on notice. And so at the minimum, the government either was completely negligent or stood down. When we get to the day of September 11th, and they've got 4 hijacked airplanes for the first time ever in aviation history, they don't even scramble the Air Force. I mean, can someone explain to me why they didn't scramble the Air Force? Any of you listening in the audience, explain to me why they've got 4 jetliners flying around and they're following them. NORAD is following them. Air traffic control is following them. And they don't scramble the Air Force? And I don't believe that they don't have an Air Force to scramble. I know from of a friend of a friend who's a pilot who flew off course before 9/11 a little bit in his private plane. Boom, F-15, right on his ass. So they've got Air Force to scramble. Those guys can be in the air in 2 minutes. They sit in their fucking flight suits. Why not scramble the Air Force? So what this chart says is that there is, in effect, no distinction between the terrorist, who's the secret enemy, and the official government, Saturn. And in any event, it was an international effort because the whole thing is centered around the 9th house. The exalted planet ruling the chart is Saturn in the 9th house. A couple of other points. It's going on a little bit longer than I thought. The moon is void of course. The moon is done making aspects in Gemini before it changes signs. That's it. There's going to be no more aspects to the moon in Gemini. Cancer is the sign ruled by the moon. The 10th house, where Cancer is the sign, the house of the official government. The official government, the President of the United States, himself was born under the sign Cancer. But in this chart, the government is ruled by the sign Cancer, and that's the moon. And the official government was asleep. It was void of course. The President of the United States maybe didn't even know that this was going to happen. What's interesting is that Capricorn is on the 4th house, which you might think of as the house of the shadow government, and Saturn rules Capricorn. So there's a lot of connections here. I'm only going over a couple of them in this chart, the very basics. One thing I noticed today, you always notice new things. I've read this chart 50, 60 times, is that this conjunction of Uranus and Neptune, 2 very slow-moving points, is still quite close. Look at that. They're both. The conjunction was exact in Capricorn in '93, but 7, 8 years later, they're both still within 15 degrees of each other in Aquarius, and this makes a grand air trine. And when grand trines get moving, it's like a vortex that you cannot get out of. Okay, so I'm going to call it good. You've got to look at the chart. You've got to look at me explaining it. I'm going to post the chart. I'm going to read the chart again on the Planet Waves FM of Friday, September 11th. The show will be dated the 13th, but these days I've been posting it on Friday. And this was the first ever video supplement to Planet Waves FM. If you're a listener to that program, thank you for doing it. I do it sitting right here most weeks, and it is certainly a labor of love. I absolutely love doing it. There are all kinds of shows archived at planetwaves.net, and then check the tab right at the top for Planet Waves FM. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your business. It's good to be with you. And bye for now.